You can captivate a man's body for a night, but if you learn to reach his soul, he will think of you for a lifetime. Every human being is starving, not for pleasure, but for connection. The world has taught us how to seduce, but not how to connect. It glorifies attention, but dismisses depth, and that's why most relationships collapse. They are built on excitement, not understanding. When a woman knows her worth, her presence changes the room. She doesn't compete for validation. She commands respect through the way she carries herself. Because when you know your own value, you stop begging to be chosen. You start choosing what deserves you. Understand this. A man's addiction isn't built through touch. It's built through impact. You become unforgettable when your silence carries meaning, when your words pierce through the noise of his world, when he feels that being near you makes him stronger, not weaker. Ki bruhri. The modern world has confused attention for affection. We chase quick dopamine instead of deep connection. But real intimacy isn't built in moments of passion. It's built in moments of vulnerability, when two people see each other without the mask, without the fear. A man doesn't fall in love with a woman because she gives him pleasure. He falls in love because she gives him peace. He becomes addicted not to her looks, but to how she grounds him when the world turns chaotic. And that's the essence of true power. The ability to create emotional safety while holding your boundaries firm, to say, I can love you deeply, but I will never lose myself for you. Because when you betray yourself to keep someone, you've already lost them. Abriquas, stop trying to manipulate attraction, embody it. Every time you elevate your standards, you shift your energy, and that energy doesn't beg, it attracts. You don't have to be perfect, you have to be real. And realness has a vibration that no act can replicate. When you build yourself, your mind, your purpose, your confidence, you become more than beautiful. You become magnetic, because men may desire what they see, but they stay for what they feel. So touch his ambition, challenge his mind, support his growth, reflect his potential back to him when he can't see it himself. That's what creates devotion. Not control, not games, but mutual evolution. Ibrahwi love is not a transaction, it's transformation. It's two souls meeting and saying, I see you, not for what you can give me, but for who you are becoming. So stop chasing the illusion of being wanted. Start embodying the power of being remembered. Because when you touch a man's soul, when you awaken the deeper part of him, you no longer compete with anyone. You stand in a class of your own. That's how you become unforgettable, not by trying to be his desire, Abram, but by becoming the standard his desire can never surpass. We live in a generation obsessed with appearances, the look, the image, the instant validation. People chase attention like it's oxygen, unaware that the more they crave to be seen, the less they are truly known. Emotional depth is the rarest form of beauty left in this world, and it's the foundation of every relationship, every purpose, and every transformation that actually lasts. Emotional depth is not about intensity, it's about awareness. It's the ability to feel without drowning, to understand without judging, and to love without losing yourself. It's the quiet strength that allows you to face pain without turning cold, to remain kind, even when the world gives you every reason not to be. That's power, because anyone can pretend to be strong when life is easy, but true power shows when life breaks you open and you still choose to stay real. People confuse emotional strength with emotional distance. They think not caring protects them. But it's the opposite. Numbness is not strength, it's avoidance. Real power comes from feeling deeply and remaining composed, from facing your emotions instead of hiding behind distractions. When you can sit with your sadness, your anger, your disappointment, and not let them destroy your direction, that's when you master yourself. Kibrot. Emotional depth isn't built overnight. It's forged through honesty. brutal, uncomfortable honesty with yourself. It means asking, what am I avoiding? What am I pretending not to feel? Because the parts of you that you refuse to confront will quietly control you. When you ignore your emotions, they don't disappear. They just dictate your behavior from the shadows. Depth is born when you choose awareness over denial, when you stop running and start listening, when you realize that feeling deeply isn't a weakness, it's your most human gift. Because people who feel deeply experience life fully. They love more intensely, create more authentically, and connect more genuinely. And that connection, that ability to see beyond the surface, is what separates those who live meaningfully from those who merely exist. Emotional depth gives you presence. It gives you gravity. It makes people stop and feel something when you speak, when you walk into a room, when you simply exist. Superficiality is easy. That's why most people choose it. Depth requires courage. It asks you to break your own illusions, to face your pain without blaming others, to heal without becoming bitter. The deeper you go within yourself, the less you need validation from others. Because when you truly understand yourself, you stop performing. You stop begging for love. You start radiating it. And that's the paradox. When you no longer chase connection, connection chases you. Because authenticity is magnetic. You attract what aligns with your energy. Emotional depth allows you to filter out the shallow, the temporary, the fake. It teaches you patience. It shows you that not everything deserves a reaction and not everyone deserves your access. When you're deep, you stop falling for appearances. You see through them. You notice intentions and OT words. You sense energy, not effort. And that gives you power in every area of life, in love, in business, in friendships, because you operate from truth, not illusion. Emotional depth turns pain into wisdom. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson. Every betrayal becomes insight. Every loss becomes growth. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift alone is the foundation of transformation. In a world that praises surface-level confidence, dare to develop emotional intelligence. Learn to communicate instead of argue, to understand instead of assume, to listen instead of react. Because maturity isn't how much you know, it's how calmly you handle what you don't understand. So, if you want to become powerful, truly powerful, don't just build muscles, status, or beauty. Build depth, build awareness, build peace within yourself, because power without depth is noise. But depth, real emotional depth, that silence that shakes the world. People will forget your words, they will forget your face, but they will never forget how your energy made them feel. That's emotional depth. That's your real legacy. Ibra. We live in a world addicted to perfection. Everyone's polishing their image, editing their lives, curating the illusion of control. But the truth is, perfection doesn't connect people. Presence does. You don't build influence by being flawless. You build it by being real. Because what moves the human heart isn't the absence of flaws, it's the presence of authenticity. Our presence is power. It's that rare energy that commands attention without demanding it. It's when someone can look at you and feel that you are here, not distracted by your insecurities, not performing to be liked, not lost in self-doubt, but present, entirely grounded in this moment. That kind of presence is magnetic. Hebrew perfection tries to impress, presence impacts. Hebrew perfection hides, presence reveals. Perfection is fragile, presence is fearless. The brewery, you can't connect through a mask. You can't build trust while pretending. The world doesn't need your ideal version. It needs your truthful one. When you show up with presence, you give permission for others to drop their armor too. That's how leadership begins. That's how intimacy forms. That's how transformation happens. When you stop trying to appear perfect and start being fully there. Presence isn't just about being physically somewhere. It's about being mentally and emotionally awake. It means listening, not waiting for your turn to speak. It means looking someone in the eyes and saying, I'm with you, without words. It means showing up for yourself, not halfway, not distracted, but completely. Perfection is rooted in fear, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough, fear of losing control. But presence is rooted in trust, trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust in your ability to adapt and grow. Perfection says, I must control everything. Presence says, I can handle anything. That's strength. That's power. When you chase perfection, you become rigid, obsessed with outcomes, terrified of mistakes. But when you cultivate presence, you become adaptable, calm under pressure, capable of creating clarity amid chaos. People follow those who make them feel safe, not those who look flawless. Presence creates that safety. Look around you. Every authentic leader, every person who inspires others, every soul that leaves a mark, they all share one thing: presence. They speak and you feel them. They walk into a room and the atmosphere shifts. It's not charisma, it's congruence. Their words, their energy, their intention, all aligned. No pretending, no performance, just truth. Presence beats perfection because perfection isolates, but presence unites. Perfection builds walls, presence builds bridges. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you start connecting yourself to people, to purpose, to meaning. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing perfection, you start improving faster, because presence gives you feedback. It allows you to learn from mistakes instead of hiding from them. It gives you freedom to grow without shame. That's where mastery begins. Not in never failing, but in being fully awake when you do. Presence is the state of self-acceptance. It's standing in your imperfection and saying, I am enough, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm honest. When you live from that place, every word gains weight, every action gains meaning, and every relationship becomes deeper. Because people can feel truth. They can feel when you're real. You don't need to be the most beautiful, the most talented, or the most intelligent. You need to be present, because presence is what turns ordinary moments into unforgettable ones. It's what makes love real, leadership respected, and communication powerful. Too brr. So stop waiting to be perfect to show up. Stop delaying your purpose until you figure it all out. Show up now, raw, real, learning, growing, because presence says, I'm still becoming, but I'm here. When you bring that kind of energy into your relationships, your work, your purpose, people feel it. You become trustworthy, you become influential, you become unforgettable. Ibra sui perfection will make them admire you. Hebra presence will make them remember you. Because the world doesn't need perfect people, it needs present ones. Those who can listen, who can love, who can lead without losing their humanity. Ibra presence beats perfection always. Because perfection tries to impress minds, apprécie, but presence moves hearts. Hebrew desire is not random. It doesn't arise from looks alone, words alone, or charm alone. It's born from value. The world teaches you to attract by performing, by trying to be wanted. But the truth is, the most desirable people are not chasing, they're choosing. They radiate worth, they embody standards, they move with purpose. And that, more than anything, creates desire. Hebrew value is the foundation of attraction, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual. Because when someone feels that you bring meaning, peace, or direction into their life, that's when they become drawn to you beyond reason. Real desire doesn't come from manipulation or pretending. It comes from authentic power. The power of knowing who you are and refusing to settle for less than what aligns with that truth. Most people try to be desired by becoming what others want. They edit themselves to fit expectations, thinking approval equals connection. But approval is cheap, respect is earned. Desire is born not from being available, but from being valuable. Because value requires discipline. It requires you to say no when it's easier to say yes. It requires you to choose growth over comfort, standards over validation. Think about it. People chase what they can't easily possess. They value what's scarce, not what's desperate. When you make your energy expensive, when your time, your attention, your love become intentional, people notice. You stop being background noise, you become the signal. Abrakayu isn't arrogance, it's clarity. It's the calm awareness of what you offer. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't need to prove my worth, my actions show it. When you know your value, you don't beg to be chosen. You observe who's worthy of being allowed in. That shift in mindset changes everything. Your relationships, your career, your peace. Brawl, desire without value is an illusion, because what begins with infatuation always ends in indifference if substance is missing. Beauty can attract attention, but value sustains it. Passion can ignite connection, but value preserves it. That's why people often lose interest when the surface fades, because there was nothing deeper to keep them anchored. So what is value really? It's integrity, it's discipline, it's emotional maturity, it's self-respect, it's the quiet power of someone who doesn't break their own principles for temporary pleasure. You can't fake that energy. People feel it. They sense when you operate from conviction instead of confusion, from purpose instead of need. Value creates desire because it represents stability in a chaotic world. It says, I'm not here to fill your void. I'm here to grow beside you. That's rare, that's magnetic, because most people operate from lack, not from strength. When you move from fullness, when your worth isn't up for negotiation, you stop attracting chaos, you start attracting alignment. Broth. It's simple. The more value you create within yourself, the less you need to chase it externally. Every time you learn, grow, evolve, or heal, you increase your value. And as your value increases, so does your power to choose. You stop asking, will they like me? And start asking, do they deserve me? That's when desire becomes mutual, not manipulative. When you embody value, you become unforgettable. Not because you're loud, not because you're perfect, but because your presence changes the standard. You remind people of what's real, what's rare, what's grounded. That's the essence of desire. It's not lust, it's longing for something that carries meaning. The truth is, you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. The moment you try to prove your value, you diminish it. Because value never chases validation, it attracts it naturally. Like gravity, it pulls what aligns and repels what doesn't. That's why people who know their worth walk differently. Their silence speaks louder than others' noise. So if you want to be desired, stop focusing on how to be wanted. Focus on becoming worth wanting. Improve your mindset, strengthen your purpose, heal your wounds, set your boundaries, because every act of self-respect builds your value, and every piece of value deepens your desirability. Remember, temporary attraction is easy. True desire is rare. One fades when the thrill ends, the other grows stronger with time. The difference is value. When someone values you, they don't want to lose you. Not because you complete them, but because you inspire them. So build yourself. Stand tall in your principles. Speak truth even when it shakes. Because value doesn't ask to be seen, it shines. And when you live from that truth, desire isn't something you chase, it's something you command. Because in the end, value creates desire. And the most powerful form of attraction is being so rooted in who you are that everything we live in a world where control masquerades as care. People think that to keep someone close, they must monitor, manage, or manipulate them. But control doesn't create love. It kills it. It suffocates trust. It breeds resentment, and it turns what could have been a sacred bond into a silent war of dominance. Real strength, real power, real love. They're all born from connection, not control. Connection is the art of understanding without possession. It's seeing someone clearly, their fears, their flaws, their fire, and still choosing to stand beside them, not above them. Control says, I'll keep you by limiting your freedom. Connection says, I'll keep you by making you feel free. That's the difference between insecurity and maturity, between attachment and alignment. When you try to control someone, you operate from fear, fear of losing them, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. But fear-based love is never sustainable. It consumes you. You become obsessed with outcomes instead of authenticity. And the more you tighten your grip, the more life slips through your fingers. Love is not meant to be managed. It's meant to be experienced. True connection comes from presence, from vulnerability, from trust. It's when both people can be themselves without fear of judgment. It's when communication replaces control and understanding replaces accusation. Because when you truly connect with someone, you don't need to force their loyalty. It flows naturally. Arbor control may give you show. RT term comfort, but connection gives you long-term peace. Control is ego. It says, I need to shape you to feel secure. Connection is soul. It says, I trust you enough to be yourself. The more you trust, the stronger the bond becomes. Because trust is the oxygen of love. Without it, everything slowly dies. We've been conditioned to believe that love is proven by sacrifice and control, by checking phones, by setting rules, by demanding constant reassurance. But that's not love. That's fear wearing love's mask. Love doesn't chain, it liberates. It doesn't cage someone into staying, it makes them want to stay. That's the power of connection. Connection over control is a mindset that transforms not just relationships, but your entire life. Because control doesn't just damage love, it damages peace. It creates anxiety, tension, and constant conflict within you. The need to control others usually hides the truth that you feel out of control within yourself. That's why healing starts by letting go. You don't build connection through control, you build it through curiosity. By asking, not assuming, by listening, not lecturing, by seeking to understand rather than to dominate. When people feel seen, they open up. When they feel safe, they stay. When they feel controlled, they rebel or withdraw. You don't need power over people, you need power within yourself. Connection thrives on respect. It says, I honor your individuality and I trust your journey. When you live that way, you no longer chase people, you attract alignment. You stop trying to fix others and start evolving together. That's where real partnership begins. Two strong individuals who choose each other freely, not out of fear, but out of respect and shared growth. Abru control tries to predict the future. Connection builds it. Control reacts from insecurity. Connection responds with patience. Control dominates to feel safe. Connection trusts to build safety. That's the quiet difference between a relationship that drains and one that expands. And make no mistake, connection doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or silence in the face of betrayal. It means choosing clarity over chaos, conversation over control. It means saying, I won't control you, but I won't lose myself for you either. That balance is where true love breathes. The strongest relationships are not built on control. They're built on choice. Every day, two people choosing each other, not because they have to, but because they want to. That's the beauty of freedom. It makes love real. And when you live with connection over control, you start to see that peace doesn't come from managing others. It comes from mastering yourself. You realize that love isn't something to grip tightly, it's something to hold gently. You stop fearing loss because you understand that anything meant for you won't need to be forced, so let go of the need to control. Let go of the fear of uncertainty. Let go of illusion that power comes from domination. Real power is emotional intelligence. It's knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to stay and when to step back, when to lead with logic and when to lead with heart. Because control builds walls, but connection builds bridges, and only through bridges do hearts meet, heal, and evolve. In the end, the people who feel the safest around you will never need to be controlled. They'll choose to stay because your presence feels like peace. Brüche, and that's the truth, Brüche control creates fear, connections freedom. Brüche choose freedom because love at its highest form has never been about possession. It's always been about connection.